In on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline now is friend of the program, NCAA stats guru Ken Pomeroy. Ken, nice to have you back on the program. How are you holding up midway through the college basketball season?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, no, this is a great time of year. So holding up is pretty easy to do, fellas.
There's like a polar vortex going on in Chicago. You used to be a weatherman. Are you still a weatherman? I don't know. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I'm an amateur weatherman at this point, but it seems pretty nasty. Yeah, I mean, temperatures in the minus 20s, minus 30s, even before wind chill. The wind chill is what gets you. Like, you can deal with really cold weather, but you just get a little breeze on top of that, and man, it is pretty nasty. So, feel for those guys. It's a pretty rough time there.
Ken, if you can figure out a way for the polar vortex to somehow affect Gonzaga shooting in Provo tomorrow night, we would be eternally grateful.
Yeah, it's going to take something like that, I think.
When you look at the West Coast Conference right now, coming out of non-conference, it was, hey, Gonzaga, San Francisco, really good. It looks like a two-bid league, but San Francisco has now lost 2 conference games, and St. Mary's has lost 3. BYU is tied for second right now after really a slow non-conference slate. Is the West Coast Conference a two-bid league?
Well, it's tough to see that happening. So, I mean, clearly, I think we're, as you alluded to in the intro there, we're talking about a scenario where Gonzaga wins the conference tournament, and somebody else has to actually earn an at-large bid. And one of these teams is going to have to get hot, really hot. They're going to have to maybe not win out, but get through the rest of the regular season with 1, maybe 2 losses if you're San Francisco, but. The problem was, none of these teams outside of Gonzaga really got a quality win outside of the league. So, you can get quality wins inside the league this year. I mean, St. Mary's and USF are, especially on the road, they're going to be quadrant 1 wins in the NCAA's eyes. But beyond that, obviously beating Gonzaga, of course, is going to be a quality win. But beyond that, it's really hard to boost your resume. So it's going to take one team, I think, finishing really strong of these, teams that are kind of chasing Gonzaga right now.
Got Gonzaga 4 in your ratings on kenpom.com. St. Mary's at 40, San Francisco at 43. How is St. Mary's 40 at 13-9, and what are they, 4-3 in league? How did they end up at 40 there?
Yeah, so when you look at their losses, they really haven't been blown out. All of their losses have been competitive, and they've all been to pretty good teams. I realize, losing to Pepperdine last week was not, Pepperdine's not necessarily a team you think of as a good loss necessarily, but on the road, it's not a horrible loss. And if you're the 40th best team, you're going to lose a game like that over the course of the season if you play enough of them. But you look at the rest of their games. I mean, every game has been a single-digit loss except for Utah State back in the 4th game of the year. They played Mississippi State tough. They played LSU tough. The USF game obviously was a tight game pretty much all the way. So, all those games on the road, close. My system cares about those kind of factors, not just that you lose, but how you lose, who you're losing to. And St. Mary's obviously doesn't have the gaudy record. That's one of the reasons why they're not really getting at large consideration. But still, Randy Bennett's still got a quality team, and wouldn't be surprised if they're the team that does end up finishing second in the league.
College basketball stats guru Ken Pomeroy with us on BYU Sports Nation. Ken, if BYU beats Gonzaga, statistically in your Ken Pom rankings, how big of a jump would that give the Cougars?
Yeah, it depends, on the final score. But, given that I have them as a 15-point underdog at the moment, that would be a pretty big shock to the system. So, I currently have the Cougars 99th. So, I could see them jumping up to, if it's a close win, something like, 80 or so, something like that. Seems to be about what you get for that kind of an upset this time of year and where BYU is ranked. So, yeah, it would be huge. There's still a path. We're talking about at-large teams. There's still a path for BYU to get an at-large.
Whoa!
Explain.
Well, if they won the rest of their games in the regular season, obviously that would include 2 wins over Gonzaga, including a road win. So, that would change the view of this pretty considerably. This would be 2 pretty amazing wins.
Yes.
based on the way the Cougars have played, would you expect that? Obviously not. I mean, that's pretty much a long shot. But, hey, it's there. I mean, it is there. And I think they certainly would start to get consideration if they did that.
It is there, and I do appreciate that blue-goggled look because if BYU did beat Gonzaga twice, that certainly would change the game. So it starts with 1 tomorrow, right, against the Zags, who are ranked 4th in the country. They're the number 1 offense, scoring offense, adjusted efficiency from you, top 10 in all the all the offensive metrics that matter. What has made this Gonzaga offense one of the best, if not the best, in the country this season?
Well, they're just a machine. You know, normally you look at great teams, great offenses, whatever you want to look at, great defenses. You know, any team that's doing something great, you look at it and they have some sort of weakness that you can find, and they just cover up that weakness by doing everything else really well. But Gonzaga really doesn't have a weakness. You know, they obviously have the great front line play with Clark and Hachimura, but you know, they also have some shooting as well. I mean, it's not necessarily their strength, but you know, they have good shooters out there. Obviously, you know, you got Zach Norvell, you got Josh Perkins. I mean, those are guys that can fill it up. Corey Kispert has contributed for them as well. So you know, they can space the court. They got the guys up front that are, you know, high major type athletes. So it's just it's a really difficult team to stop. They can draw fouls, they can get rebounds. They're pretty good at handling the ball. You know, they have that experience in the backcourt. So it's hard to find a weakness that you can go after if you're BYU, and that's why Gonzaga arguably has the best offense in the country, because there really aren't any weaknesses, and even against the great teams they've played, you know, they've been able to score the ball pretty well.
Ken, always great to hear from you. KenPom.com if you want all of that statistical goodness.
I'm on it right now,
from Ken Pomeroy. Yes, Jerem Jordan is on it often, Ken. I should let you know that.
Well, of course, I appreciate all the support, fellas, and yeah, thanks for having me on. Love it.
All right, we'll get you back on after BYU wins at Gonzaga later on next month.
Yes.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Ken Pomeroy on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.